Welcome back. This is Dr. Page, the best guy to see on the worst day of your life. We are going through the Navigating Healthcare series, and in this video, we're going to be talking about preparing for your appointment. There's a lot of pieces that have to come together for you to have a successful appointment with your healthcare provider. And I want to just encourage you that there's some things that you need to do before, during, and after your visit. And I want to divide those up into three parts. But if you've ever been to the doctor's office and left frustrated, you'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, we want to set this up in a positive way so that you can make the most out of your time that you have with your healthcare provider. We want to save you time, we want to save you money, and more than anything, we don't want you to be frustrated when you come to the doctor's office. So there's a lot of prep work that has to be done on your side and on the doctor's office's side. If you remember in the first video, we talked about becoming your own healthcare advocate. And then we moved to building a healthcare team, and now we're moving to preparing for your appointment. And I want you to think about this. There's some things that you need to do before you ever come to the doctor's office. And the first thing is to understand why you're going to the doctor's office. I can't tell you how many times I've had people come into my office and they have no clue as to why they're there. And so you need to understand, kind of why you're there, and maybe even in your journal begin to formulate your own problem list. Now, your physician may want to rearrange those problems or may not be able to address all those problems in one appointment. But in your mind, in your journal, begin to formulate those problems and understand exactly why you're going to the doctor's office. And then also in that journal, I want you to do this. I want you to begin to formulate 3 questions, not 100 questions, but just 3 basic questions that you can ask your doctor that will help you to be able to make the next step in your healthcare journey. And the next thing is, and this is so crucial, is that you begin to gather information. I think it's very important in your healthcare journal, whether it's on your cell phone or whether it's a piece of paper, that you begin to gather information, gather tests, and begin to put them together in a way that you can present to your doctor. So often the doctor's office doesn't know that you went to the emergency room 2 weeks ago and had a CAT scan. Or maybe that you were having chest pain and went to the emergency room and had cardiac enzymes and a stress test. And so you want to have that information already available for them. And then also, as you do that, you need to have copies, and I would recommend paper copies of that so that you can give to your physician as you get there. So often the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. Say, for example, you're coming to see a specialist from a primary care doctor, and often that information doesn't get relayed. Either the test doesn't get sent, or somewhere in the process it gets lost. I mean, who knows now? We have so much information, so many tests, and so much papers going through a doctor's office that sometimes those things get lost. And so you want to be, once again, being your healthcare advocate, you want to have those tests with you. Hopefully on your cell phone or on a disc, wherever, so that you can give to the physician so that you diminish that frustration both for you and the physician. So also there's some things that you need to do, not just before you come to the doctor's office, but during the doctor's office. I think one of the best pieces of advice I could give you is, number 1, bring somebody with you. Someone who can listen, someone who can look at things a little objectively. Sometimes, for example, a person comes into my office and I have to give them the bad news: you have cancer. And then after that point, nothing else registers in their brain. And so having that person there objectively with you, to help you with information is important. And also to encourage you. I mean, sometimes you just need another hand to hold on to as you go through this process. So make sure you bring someone with you that can help you kind of filter out the information that you're going to receive. And then, of course, always be able to formulate and tell the doctor why you're there. And then thirdly, during your appointment, during your doctor's appointment, it's a time of listening and a time of learning. I mean, you definitely want to have the time to be able to ask your questions that you formulated in your journal, but also a time to listen, a time to learn, and a time to, begin to communicate with your physician about maybe some of your wishes. And so the more groundwork that you can do in preparing for the physician's appointment is crucial. And then, of course, there's before, there's during, and then there's after. I would recommend very quickly, within the day that you have the appointment, to sit down and to begin to write down some of the salient things that you learned in that doctor's appointment. Like, for example, you've seen the gastroenterologist, and the gastroenterologist recommends that you have a test. And then you want to write down, of course, why that test is being performed, and then you want to write down the details of when that test is going to be performed and have all that information that you need to know. Like, for example, if you're having a procedure, you need to know, which medications that I need to take before the procedure, which medications I need to stop. For example, with seeing a gastroenterologist, you're going to have a bowel prep and clean your colon out. All those kind of things. And, where do I get those medicines? Those questions have to be answered. So you have to, you need to kind of write those questions down in your journal, however you want to do that. So just thinking about that, the important thing about your doctor's appointment is you really want to free up that time to be able to really ask questions, communicate with your doctor, and learn from your doctor. And one of the worst situations to be in is to come to the doctor's office and the doctor not have the information that you need. Let me give you a personal story to this. So my son was going to see an otolaryngologist. He's 12 years old, a pediatric otolaryngologist. We general surgeons call an otolaryngologist a nose picker. Well, this was the fourth nose picker that my son had to see. And interestingly, when he got there, there was no information. I mean, my son had had several ENT procedures on his nose to open up the airway in his nose, and there was no information there. And, once again, the mistake that we made is that we didn't have the operative notes. We didn't have some of the office appointments there. We didn't have any of that information for them. But what made the whole visit more challenging is that my son actually had two charts. We call my son by his middle name, and there was a chart that put his middle name as the name, and then the other chart that put his first name. And so here was two charts, and one of the charts had all the information that he needed, and yet the other chart that the doctor was using had no information. And so that's why it's important in this kind of crazy, busy technological world that we live in, that you bring that information with you to the doctor's office. But let me encourage you to spare yourself frustration and spare yourself money of having to schedule another appointment, and also spare you the time of having to go to the doctor's office again. If at all possible, do your part to prepare for your appointment. I'm Dr. Page, the best guy to see on the worst day of your life. This is session 3 of the Navigating Healthcare series.